As our final speaker of the day, we have Commander Ranjan Bhattacharya, a proud native of Odisha, whose journey has been characterized by dedication and service. Graduating from ARC Higher Secondary School and Sainik School Bhubaneswar, he continued his education at the National Defence Academy in Pune, where he embarked on his path of service to the nation. Commissioned into the Indian Navy in 1994, Commander Bhattacharya specialized in weaponry and served on various ships and submarines. His commitment to duty and expertise in submarine operations earned him respect and accolades throughout his career. In 2016, after his final assignment at the Naval Headquarters, Commander Bhattacharya decided to transition from active duty, embracing a new chapter in his life. Please join me in extending a warm welcome to Commander Ranjan Bhattacharya as he shares his insights and experiences with us today.
The conclusions were all wrong.
10 seconds.
Okay, good shit.
9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. Torpedo went back.
What happened? Combat tactics, Mr. Ryan. By turning into the torpedo, the captain closed the distance before it could arm itself.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. That short video that we just saw, sorry for the audio part of it, somehow it didn't play well, but it showed a very cool, composed, calm, suave, supremely confident portrayal of a submarine's commanding officer by Sir Sean Connery, who was playing the role of Captain Ramio Marcus, a Soviet submarine captain, from Tom Clancy's epic thriller called The Hunt for Red October. Welcome to the world of the undersea warrior, the submariner. For a long time, every aspiring captain of a submarine wanted to be that man, that cool guy, unruffled, even in the face of an incoming torpedo. I definitely wanted to be. For 21 out of the 23 years that I spent in the Navy, I spent on submarines. Submarine was my life. Being a submariner was my reason to be. And someday I hoped I could be as cool and calm as that guy that we just saw. A submariner's life is hard, extremely tough, in very harsh environmental conditions, undersea, in very, very cramped, confined spaces, often's belly, without access to basic necessities that we take for granted, like sunlight, fresh air, your own bed, the ability to use the toilet whenever you want because there are just 2 for 80 people and you have to wait your turn. At times, there is a lack of oxygen, there's a high abundance of carbon dioxide in the air that you're breathing. Away from home, away from your family, doing what you can't come back and tell anyone. What is it that you do? In short, a very insane choice of life. Yet it was a life that I chose, and I never regretted for a minute that I spent on board a submarine. And if I have a dream today, that is only one, to go back someday to sea on board a submarine. So what exactly is a submarine? A submarine is one of the most complex pieces of military equipment designed by man. A submarine is essentially for warfighting, to be used against enemy warships or enemy shipping, merchant shipping. And today's submarine carry an arsenal that is enough to destroy a country thoroughly. They carry nuclear weapons that can be fired from thousands of miles away and destroy targets on land. A submarine operates underwater. A typical submarine dives to about 300 meters or more, which is about the length of 3 football fields. I know you had the captain of the Indian football team just tell you about her experience, but that is how far deep we dive. And essentially the submarine operates in 3 levels. On surface, you dive to a depth of 9 meters underwater, which is your periscope depth, from where you can see things around through the periscope. And thereafter you dive deep, where you can't see anything. It is like being inside the auditorium. You interact with people, but you don't know what's outside. All you depend upon are the sounds that come to you, sounds of machinery from other ships, sounds of other ship transmitting, sounds of the seas, sounds of sea creatures. That's all you live by. And you navigate, you operate, all your information source is a sonar which gives you sound that you receive. Selection to a submarine cadre is a voluntary affair. You cannot force anybody to join something that insane. And once selected, it consists of very rigorous training. And once you are trained, you are assessed, and should you meet the criteria, you get to come on board a submarine and serve. For me, being on board a submarine was the first step, and maybe someday to command a submarine was my ultimate dream. So in the summer of 2009, I finally got my chance. I got my chance to go in command of a submarine when I was appointed captain of a submarine on the eastern coast. Command comes after a very thorough process in which an officer is assessed for almost 15 years of his career. Through demonstrated performance, you have a very rigorous selection procedure, exams, and should you pass, display enough mental, physical, and intellectual capabilities to take that assigned role, and also be able to perform under stress, you are rewarded with a command. In the Navy, that is called being promoted to captain. Now, captain is a rank as well as an appointment. Any man or woman who leads an aircraft or a submarine or a ship is given the time-honored rank of captain. It's a term which has got very few parallels in the civil world, because in corporate terms, if I were to define the job description, it would be a CEO, a CTO, a CHRO, a COO, a chief legal officer, and in the days of yore, even a judge who could punish a man even by death should he not meet the requirements of the Navy. It's a very, very heavy set of responsibility that is given to you. Yet, men aspire to become captains of ships without any adequate or additional compensation. I was fortunate to be given the command of my own submarine. Suddenly I realized that all this while building up to that appointment, I had somebody behind me who I could turn to for assistance, help, guidance. And here I was on board my first submarine as a commanding officer with nobody to look behind and take guidance from. I was left holding the last buck with nobody to pass it on to. Soon the time came when I very eagerly looked forward to taking this wonderful iron lady that I was entrusted with, my companion for the next 1 year, to sea. So I took her out to sea for my first dive. We were on a very important mission, and that is where my story for today begins. We went out to sea, a bunch of people I had not met earlier in my career, but suddenly all posted together on the same boat. And as we prepared to take the submarine down to the deeps, and it's an elaborate process of taking the submarine down to the deep, we had an accident. We had an accident underwater, and the upper hatch, which is from where we enter inside the submarine, opened underwater. It is unimaginable what could have happened, because once the hatch opens underwater, a huge deluge of water comes in and floods everything in its path. And this is just a cramped, small compartment in a submarine. Fire and flooding, these are the worst enemies of a submariner. While fire kills instantly, flooding can cause that fire. And if left uncontrolled, a flooding quickly take away your ability to come back to surface from underwater. You will go into an uncontrolled dive. You will keep going down, deeper and deeper, till you reach something called your crushing depth. And that is when implosion happens. Something that happened to the ill-fated Titan in June last year. You must have all read about it. As the rapid ingress of water started happening inside the submarine, there was virtually no time to react. People reacted instinctively and from muscle memory, and instantly took a few actions that brought this boat from 10 meters underwater onto the surface. But by this time, we had shipped in a tremendous amount of water, tons. The water had gone into the submarine, gone to all the spaces below, entered most of my equipment and machinery, and rendered them almost dead. Because you will realize water is a good conductor of electricity, and seawater is an extremely good conductor of electricity. It creates short circuit and it can create fire. So there we were on the surface of the sea, stopped, almost crippled, with no way to move forward or go down. What do you tell people that you are leading about recovering from something like this? How do you motivate them to do and take the next step when something like a near-death experience has just happened? Fortunately, I did not need to dwell on these because training and professional pride took over, and we immediately set about getting all the actions required to bring the submarine to complete safety, because there was still a lot of action that needed to be taken. Submarine was not completely safe. Took those actions, and as it happened, I deployed teams of people to go and inspect and see what was the extent of the damage. The report that came back to me was extremely disheartening. Almost all my critical mission equipment, mission ready equipment were rendered inoperable. We could not dive. So I got together my top command team, my senior officers, and I discussed with them about our options. What do we do now? And in unison, together, they all said the same thing. Sir, this is a very serious emergency. We must contact our shore authorities, go back to harbor, and get repairs done. I agreed with them because that was the most prudent thing to do. But this was not a decision that I needed to take immediately. I could delay it for a while. So I thought, let's see how can we get things back on its feet. So I spoke to my men and I told them that something like this happened, unprecedented. Nobody had ever encountered it like this, something like this. And I asked them to give their best for the next 24 hours and see what could we salvage from this situation. And my men, my officers and my sailors, they responded magnificently. They rose to this challenge and worked tirelessly for 24 hours, during which they opened up every equipment, they cleaned up every equipment, they tried to slowly bring things back to shape. It was a very long night, the longest in my life, and as I lay agonizing, I was faced with a decision dilemma. What do I do? The prudent thing is to go back somehow to harbor. We had an accident, tell people that fate was against us, we had an accident, and take what comes my way, because obviously the Navy doesn't reward accidents very well. The responsibility is always the commanding officers, and every commanding officer who goes to sea knows that ultimate penalty is paid when things don't go the way they are supposed to. We had actually come to sea that day for a very important mission, and that required us to dive. We had to dive down to a particular depth below water and test some equipment. And as I pondered over my course of action, something inside me kept on telling me that let's see, let's not give up so easily. Anyway, 24 hours later, the reports came in. About 70% of my equipment had come back online, except for some critical equipment, which to me were not that important for the process of diving. Yet, we were not completely safe. So I had my second meeting with my heads of department, and I asked their views. Their views are unchanged. Sir, we should go back. It's peacetime. We don't need to risk our crew or the submarine. It's a very important national asset. We should go back. Whilst I agreed with them, I also had time to think, and I asked them to give me a patient hearing. In the Navy or in the armed forces, command is absolute. You give orders, people follow it blindly, unquestionably, or people die. But this was not such a situation where I could pass an order to people because I was risking their life, potentially. So I gave them my logic because I had time to think over, and I planned every milestone that lay ahead into very, very short achievable targets. I ran through scenarios that could happen. How could we mitigate those risks? How could we evaluate situation at every stage before we go to the next stage? Go, no-go situations, assign responsibilities very clearly, and see how can we salvage this whole situation. Slowly I felt that my officers' views started turning. They realized that it was possible. And as they realized it was possible, they were more participative in the discussion and the planning, and they came up with more suggestions which we could incorporate in the final plan. The next step was to sell it to the men. So I went back, I addressed my ship's company, the entire crew on board, and I told them that is what we intend to do. Fate had dealt us a very bad hand. First dive, water comes in, dead in water. But fate had also given me an excellent chance to simulate as close to as it is likely to be in war, in peacetime. Because in war, you don't come back from a mission. You do what is best required for the purpose of war. You hope war never happens, but should you be forced into war, you do take an opportunity to deliver what you are trained to do. The crew came around, and 24 hours after this accident that had happened, I resumed my date with my Iron Lady. And very, very gently she let me take her down to the deep sea to about 150 meters underwater. Every milestone en route was checked, rechecked within the circle of safety, and having met our objectives, we came up to surface, and we returned back. I was very satisfied because I suddenly saw the transformation. When we set out from harbor, it was a bunch of individuals of various degrees of competence. But hardship, tragedy, and a very unique set of circumstances had forced this group of people into a very, very good team. And for the next 1 year, we had an amazing time with this team of people who were bonded together over a calamity. Accidents do happen, but the Indian Navy ensures, or navies ensure, that the training is extremely good. We are always prepared. We always assess our risks. We train, we retrain, we run through drills and emergencies, we run through standard operating procedures, and there is a very, very strict adherence to such procedures. And that is probably what saved the day for me that day. It was extremely risky, but we survived because of training, good training, because every mile of our journey went through adequate preparations, looking at pitfalls, looking at emergency scenarios, and at the end, we were left smiling. The story had a very happy ending. We came back to harbor. I reported the incident to my bosses, and I took full responsibility for it. But they didn't throw me under the bus. They realized what had gone wrong, and they were very appreciative of how we responded to a crisis. And the entire naval machinery swung into action. Before we realized, we were back on our feet, everything repaired, and we had an amazing time. I went on to go to another submarine after this tenure for my second command, but that's another story. What lessons do we learn from this? At least what lessons did I learn? I'm sure this august audience sitting here will know all the right management terms, which I don't. But in layman's terms, simple layman's term, a naval officer's term, let me just run you through what I learned. Calamities can happen, but a good leader sees opportunity in calamity. Whenever something goes wrong, it is very easy to feel despondent, feel sad. Why did it happen to me? What could I have done? Why me? Don't waste time thinking about what has happened. See how you respond from it. You may fall, but always get up and continue. We had a choice. We had a clear choice of flight. And nobody would have blamed us because that was the right thing to do. But when faced with that situation, my crew responded by preferring to fight. And once we fought, we achieved our mission, which is for me a great learning experience. Risk is something that is endemic to every person's life. Whichever sphere of life you come from, risk will always be there. You cannot avoid risk. But a good leader assesses the environment, thinks of what all could go wrong, assesses the resources at hand, allocates resources adequately, and manages risks. You can never avoid risk. but you can manage it well. And risk management is the mark of a good leader. Learning to me is for keeps. When you learn in the learning phase, be like a sponge, soak in everything that comes your way, because you never know when that learning will go and help you out. Because you'll realize one thing, that when things go wrong, every person will default to the level of training and knowledge. That is where you'll default to. So keep learning always. Learning is never ending, but learn everything that you need to empower you for your job. And prepare endlessly. You have to keep preparing all the time. Your crew, your people who work for you, who work under you. Keep your powder, keep preparing. Prepare for even the unseen, because when there are two teams of equal caliber, the one more prepared always wins. Even when there are unequal teams, the one which is more prepared will always perform better over another team which is probably of a higher caliber but has not prepared. So preparation is the key. Prepare for the unseen. The next point is something that is very close to my heart. It's called dissent is not disloyalty. In any successful organization, a good leader must encourage dissent, because professional dissent is never disloyalty. Any leader who does not allow dissent is actually preparing for failure. Be open to ideas, listen to dissenting views, convince people why their view is wrong and why they should take your view. One of the jobs of a good leader is also to be a good mentor, to a good teacher. Teach them what is the right thing to do, because they may be having their views from ignorance or lack of experience. But if you are confident, if you know what you're talking about, you can always reason and convince them of the right thing to do. Just like fear and doubt, even confidence is contagious. There are times when you are not confident, you are fearful, you have self-doubt, but don't let it show. Learn to control those emotions, because confidence is actually contagious. People sense fear very easily, especially people who work under you. A good leader, even when things are not going right, is a dealer of hope. You must give hope to your people. Like Captain Marco Remius, a torpedo fired at you underwater, potentially life-threatening, it's going to kill you. You have taken all actions, and you make small talk about the weather. That helps. Transparency and good communication always saves time. With your crew, always be transparent, convey your intent to them. Tell them what is it that you want to do, or what is it that you expect. And having done that, do not micromanage. Let them use their ingenuity and initiative, and let them succeed. If they make a mistake, broad shoulders to take responsibility and teach. Empower, educate, nurture. The biggest contribution any good leader can make to an organization is to leave behind a set of individuals who are prospective leaders for the future. You have to develop leadership in your organization. And a successful organization has a very clearly defined set of young second, third, fourth rung people who will in time aspire to and reach leadership positions. Share your successes with your team, because the worst thing can be to be lonely but successful. As you help your people grow, always give credit when it is due. If somebody has done something good, always acknowledge and project it to your higher bosses. That is the mark of a good leader. Never take away the limelight just because it helps your career. And the last point is happiness breeds success. A happy organization is always more productive. Keep the workplace happy, a place where people aspire to come to work, they look forward to come to work in the morning, and they feel very, very uncomfortable going back, not having finished their job. Make that kind of an organization, and you will always be successful. So that, in short, was my journey of 23 years in the Navy and many since. And that always brings smile to my face, because whenever I look back to this incident, no matter how tough the situation I am under, how bad, how insurmountable my problems look, it always makes me smile. Thank you so much. And I apologize for the delay and for keeping you awake till so late. But thank you, and you have been a wonderful.
As a Navy person, we would all like to say thank you for your service. I'm sure the leadership lessons you have shared today will serve as a guiding light to all of us soon heading into the corporate world.